All right, record on this computer. Let me see. All right, so let me leave StatCrunch waiting. I'm going to need it for my analysis. Okay, let me take this one out. This is not your school. So the data set here, let me open this. You have, you know what? Let me do it this way. Let's start with the instructions, which I assume you looked at. But I'd like to pull that up too. Let me download the data set. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the data set, which is an Excel data set. Let me go into my folder proper. Downloads. Okay. Enable editing. Yeah. I was trying to open it through a shortcut. So you need to download it properly and then go from there. So I'm going to point down. I'm going to move my cursor up to the top, and I'll be able to highlight and Control C. I'm going to copy. I'm going to copy this data set to StatCrunch. So let me go to StatCrunch. I'm going to click on the title of the first column, and let me Control V. Let me paste it, and there it is. Are we good? All right, let me move this out of the way. Can we see my screen? All good? All right, so to get started, let's see. Let me pull this way. Let's go to the instructions. Let me write that off. So here are some things, here are some questions that we hope this data set will be able to help us answer. The first one says, how would you describe a typical patient at the hospital? Then it follows with, what are the attributes of the patients in the sample? For attributes, in particular, what I'm looking for are the categorical variables. Whereas in terms of what is typical, we want to choose some numerical variables too and describe them and use them to describe the population here. Always remember that to begin to analyze data, you always want to read the story behind the data set. Usually, every data set that has been collected is usually collected about someone, about some item. So you want to know about whom the data set is collected. That gives you context. And in statistics, context is everything. Where was it collected? When was it collected? If you can access what? Those pieces of information, that will be considered metadata about your data. In other words, it's information about the data you have. So what I've done here is, if I go back to the if I go back to the module for the application project, I provided what? The metadata for the hospital data set right here, which gives a description of the title, a description of each title for the columns. For instance, or for example, we have leave status. What does that mean? It means that the patient leave or die at the end of their hospital stay. So that means if I go back to this data, the first column, this leave status, means this highlighted row 1 in pink is the profile of the first patient. This person was living, was alive at the end of their hospital stay. How long did they stay in the hospital? 3. Did they spend any time in the ICU? None. How old? 78. Male, female, or unknown? Female. What was the primary care payer? What was the principal payer for charges? Medicare, some kind of care, some kind of insurance. And then you have what? Total charges, okay? How much in drug charges, lab charges, imaging charges, RT charges, respiratory treatment care charge. Are we on the same page? So each of those titles has what? Has a metadata that explains what it means. Are we on the same page here? Okay. So back to the question. Now that we have a grasp of what each title means. How would you describe a typical patient at the hospital? You will notice that some of these variables are categorical, like leave status. This is categorical. Either a person leaves or dies. Yes or no? All right. Then what about length of stay? Would you say that that is categorical? Anyone? Categorical or numerical? Numerical. I agree with you. Yeah, very good. ICU days, number of days spent in the ICU. Do you think that is categorical or numerical?
Numerical.
Numerical, very true. So is age, so is total charges, and all of this bunch here, from total charges all the way down, are all numerical, whereas principal payer is what? Categorical. Why is it important to make that distinction from the beginning when you want to make your when you want to analyze your data set? If you go back to module 1 and 2, in fact, in module 2, at the beginning, where we talked about the Super Bowl game, if you watch those videos, you will notice that for categorical variables, we have a different way we analyze a categorical variable as opposed to a numerical variable. If I want to represent the different categories of a categorical variable, I'll use a bar chart or a pie chart. Yes or no? You probably should not use, or you really should not use, a bar chart or a bar plot for a numerical variable. We should be using a histogram or a box plot, do you recall, from module 2 for a numerical variable. So that is why it is important at the outset to know thy data. Very, very crucial. So as it stands, how is that useful in helping me to solve this first problem? So I will look at how would you describe a typical patient at the hospital? I am looking for the numerical variables here, and attributes have to do with qualitative attributes or categorical variables. That's what I'm looking for here. Here's an example. If you consider the context of a person who visits a hospital, usually they might be considering the length of stay. How long are they going to be in the hospital? How much are they going to leave the hospital with? The total charges. So to do some analysis using StatCrunch, we can go to summary stats. Are we good? For summary stats for columns. Are we good? And you might notice that most of the only variables here are mostly the numerical ones. Did you notice that? So StatCrunch is meaning it has some intelligence, some intelligent sense, and realizes if you're going to do something about columns in this case, and you want to find mean, you probably don't want to find the mean of a categorical variable. Yes or no? So did you notice that it does not include leave status? Even if I scroll down here, it does not include leave status, yeah? Because it assumes you're not trying to find the mean of a categorical variable. So as an example, I can choose length of stay. What are the variables you think will be important? Maybe age, maybe length of stay. So let me hold down the control key, and then I can use my other hand to click, to do multi-selections. Are we good? So total charges, maybe ICU days, maybe drug charges, lab charges, imaging charges, RT charges. And for each of these variables, what do I want to compute for them? I might be interested in the mean. I might be interested in the standard deviation. I might be interested in the median. What is the least value for each of the variables? The maximum, possibly the interquartile range. Yeah, maybe the mode if I want. And all I need to do is hit what? The compute key. And that will return a bunch of summary statistics for each of the different columns. So if total charges is of interest to you, if you think that is of interest to you, this is telling us that what? The average what in total charges incurred by this person, by a typical patient on which data was collected is $6,437.21-ish. Are we good? So that would be something to talk about because sometimes, people want to know how much on average people get charged. And we have the standard deviation. People will say, okay, so what is the least that the person has been charged so far? This much. What is the highest that the person has been charged? So you have what? $40,231.21 here. Are we good? So you are free to take a snapshot of this and put it on your what? On your Word document and choose which of those variables you want to talk about. Does that make sense here? So by talking about that, you can say on average, the data shows that what? And on average, the data shows that the total charges that a typical patient to the hospital spent on average this amount, $6,437.21. Are we good? All right. And you can talk about some other variables. And on average, the people stayed what? 4.37 and so on. This gets you towards what? The numerical variables. So does that make sense? Does that clarify a couple of things? Okay. So that takes care of just this part. Real quick. Are we good? Then we want to talk about the attributes. Attributes are qualitative variables or categorical variables. How do we do that? I'm going to X out of this. Take note that when you X out of that, it actually saves it here for you, just in case you want to make a future reference to it. So you can go back to StatCrunch, go to results. This is showing me, if I click on this, it shows me this result again. So in case you need to go back to it. So let's take that out. What about categorical variables? What I need to do for categorical variables, we mostly need tables. This was the first example I did in module 2 when we talked about the responses for people for reasons why they watch the Super Bowl. Do you remember that example? Some people said they watch for the commercial. Some people said they watch for the game. So we need tables to summarize what? A categorical variable. So you can click on frequency. Are we good? Let me do that again one more time. So you go to stats, go to summary stats, tables rather, for categorical variable, tables. Go to what? Frequency, because we want to draw a frequency distribution and we want to automate that process. Sounds good? So click on this and you might notice something. What do you notice about the variables it selected this time? Are they numerical or are they categorical? Look at leave status. Is it numerical or categorical?
That's categorical, isn't it?
Categorical, yes. So it's thinking if you're trying to create a table, this usually applies mostly to categorical. So you're free to what? To also do multi-selection. So, all right. It also pulls some what? Numerical? Yeah, that's because that can also be summarized. What is that? What? Someone. All right, are we good? All right, let's put you have one frequency and relative frequency. If you want percent of total, sure. And let me see. I can drag this up and hit what? The compute key. Let me move this aside. Oh, wow. Lots of unique numeric for, oh no. Do I want to bin it? No, I don't want to bin it. So I must have grabbed age. Nope, I don't want that. Let me do this again. Let's go to stats. It's telling me that there's a numerical variable I chose. Sorry, tables, frequency. And I want just the categorical. Oh, no, I don't want length of stay. That's why. I don't want days. No, I just want leave status. Leave status. Ah, I just want leave status. I don't want this one, so I'll click that out. I want gender. I want the different types of pairs. And I believe that should be good. And I want frequency and relative frequency, and maybe percent of total too. And click on what? You want to click on compute. Let me give you some time to write something. Since I'm recording this, I'll wait. Hopefully it will record it on this computer and I'll be able to upload it to YouTube, then provide the link. All right, so let's click on compute. So this gives you some categorical variables. And what I like about this is you can tell that most people what? Most people left the hospital what? Alive? Yes or no?
Yes, it
Like,
looks like they left alive.
you say, yeah, that's good news, right? Yeah. Was that what you said? Sorry, I didn't quite catch.
Yes, that's what I said, that they left alive, it looks like, for the most part.
Yes, we like that. When they left alive, that's good. Yes. And what we like about StatCrunch is if you had like 10,000 rows, it will do the count. It will summarize it for you. Does that make sense? That's really cool. So you know what is more common. So a person comes in and says, I'm really scared. Am I going to die? You can say, well, so far about 93.43% left what? Alive. Does that make sense? Yeah. So a significant proportion. And if the person says, how do you know that? You're like, well, blame the data. That's what our data tells us, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. And we can also see the breakdown by sex, yeah? And we can also see the different principal payers. And we can see that care seems to be a very what? A very common mode of payment or principal payer, right? Are we good? So you can mention this. So this was what we used to call the mode in module 3. Do you recall? Care is what? Is the modal what? Principal payer here. That'll be something to just chat about. Put them in sentences. Highlight the key ideas. Sounds good? So you're welcome to also share some of these tables. You don't have to put too much. Things that you think will be important. Make it a personal experience and how you think it might. What do you think will be most important to you? Highlight it, talk about it, and that should be good. Are we good? I'm not finding something over the top. Are we good? So very, very crucial. All right, so let me also take that off. So that will cover 1 and 2. It also covers what? 2. Did you notice? What percentage of the patients in the sample are female? If I go back to my analysis on categorical variables, let me go to the last one, frequency table. I can easily see the breakdown by what? Sex here, yes or no? And I can tell that immediately that 51.09, right? %. So if I'm answering question 2, besides this table, you might also decide to include what? A graph. And what did we learn in module 2? What graph should you use for a categorical variable? A pie chart to be good, since you don't have many subcategories. So you go to graph, go to pie chart, and in this case, I have the raw data. This will be good to use to answer question 2, providing a visual for your non-technical audience. So click on with data, click on sex, and let's begin this way. So we want a pie chart with data. And let's start with starting with the basics, this guy. And let's click on compute. And it gives you this pie chart, yes or no? Which shows the breakdown and also shows the percentage. This would be a good way to answer question 2. Take a snapshot, take snippet, put it there, and put some words beside. hey, we observed that what 51.09% of all what patients in this data set are what are females. That should get you to part 2. Are we good? Any questions so far? All right. The next one says, out of all patients, what was the average total amount charged to their what? Patient, to their account. So we want to know the average total charge to the account of all patients. So this question is about which variable here? Which variable is it about? Which one of them? Leave status, length of stay, ICU, age.
Would it be the total charges?
Absolutely, very good. So, and this is a numerical variable, yeah? Are we good? So since question 3 is about the average, I'd like to look at the distribution of what total charges. What we learned in module 2, which has to do with what visual should you use for a numerical variable. We should use a histogram. Do you recall? You can use a histogram or a box plot. Let us start with a histogram. Click on histogram, and I'm interested in what? Total charges. So I'm going to select just that. And I would like, what does the question say? It also talks about finding the what? The average. Yes or no? Also the mean. Well, it would be nice to look at the mean. So I'm going to put a marker here to illustrate where the mean is. Are we good? And you'll see where that comes up soon. Let's do that first. Let me click on this. And you can see that this is what? A right skew distribution. Yes or no? You recall this from module 2. And this is where the mean is. Yes or no? But what do we remember about right skew distributions? Should we really use the mean to describe them or the median? Who can remember?
You would use the mean because it's right skewed. So right or left skewed, you use the mean.
Yes. If we have the symmetric distribution,
Wait,
so
what?
the median might, because the mean is affected by what? Outliers, yeah? Yeah, so yeah. So let's try. Let's also put the median too. Let's edit this. And let me also click on the median. And let me compute again. Did you notice that the median is closer to where the big bump is? Are we good? So as a gentle reminder, you can report both the median and the mean. But the median it's robust against the influence of what? Outliers. It's very, very robust against it. So in this case, what is the mean, the median? If I move my cursor over what? This guy, it is telling me that the median what? Total charges, which is the average total charges, will be $5,418 and what? 85 cents. Yes or no? So this picture will be nice to put under question 3. 1. Are we good? And then in addition, if you want to show me what that value is, you can also what? Go to stats, go to summary stats for columns. I want the summary stats for total charges, and I just want the mean, the value of the mean, and hold down the control key to select median and compute. So it would be nice to see this picture and to see this. You can put them side by side like this, then use your what? Your snipping tool. I have my snipping tool here. So snipping tool, new, and why is it going away? Okay, it's because I'm sharing my screen at the same time. So I have that, and I can put that in my Excel document where I'm going to type. Does that make sense here? Are we on the same page so far?
Yes, I can see that.
Good. So I can copy this right here, copy, and take it to my Word document where I want to type my my file. So I mean my what I want to submit. So my document. Yeah, so put it there. Yeah, mine is usually slower because I'm also sharing my screen, so it takes a little longer. So you can say, oh, for question 3, like that, and, you know, put that guy there. Are we good? Okay. And, you know, you can play around with this. You can move that picture around if you want. If you want to move it around for text wrapping, you know, and then you can type words here, you know, on average, you know, go from there. Sounds good?
Yeah, I actually really like how you just showed us how to do that, because I was wondering how we would answer the text like with the picture beside it.
Sure.
So putting the
You can
text
also put it
background-
below. No problem. Yes. You can also have the picture up and put it below. I'm fine with that. Does that make sense? Sure. That's fine. Yeah. And you can put the text above any choice you have. Yeah. Any whatever you want. The option is up to you. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you're good to go. You can also put the text on top and go from there. All right, let's look at the next one. This says this time, not all patients this time. What if it was out of all those who are male? What was the average? So we just want the average for strictly what? Male patients. Are we good? All right. So earlier we talked about what? The distribution of who are female. This time, let's look at what the average total for female. StatCrunch is very robust in also sectioning. What we have done so far was the overall mean, male and female combined. But what if we wanted to graph the histogram of total charges? Are we together? And I want to group by, that is where this is very useful. I want to group by male or female. Are we good? And let me start off with, so let me compute. You see that it is showing me the distribution for what? Females. Are we good? And if you click on this arrow, it is showing me the distribution for who? Males. Are we good?
It honestly took me until you clicked on the second screen to see that it said equals males up there or equals females to understand that's how you differentiate. So
Awesome.
yes, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So this would be a nice picture to put. And along with it, it would be nice to see what that value is. So again, similar to what we did earlier, we go to statistics, go to what? Summary statistics for data stored in a column. And we're looking at total charges, but we want to group by what? By sex. Yes or no? So that means tell me what the average, what? Total charges is for male, total average total charges for what? Female. So I want to group by this group. And what do I want? I want the mean, and I also want the median. And let's compute that. So I have this here. If I like, I can also put that there. Are we good? So I can see that of males here. So you can take a snapshot of this and then put some text to explain your insights.
I have a question in regards to that. So I had actually created that same exact thing, except I didn't understand what the frequency was because it wasn't just, say, 30 or 27 men. So I don't know what the frequency is, so it didn't make sense, so I didn't use that.
Oh, so, okay, to answer your question effectively, do you mind if I ask a thought? For a histogram, was there, I want to find a very respectful way to ask this. I'm always careful so that, yeah. Okay, in general, let me put it this way. In general, for a histogram, what is on the vertical axis should be your frequency. Does that make sense? Let me go back to, let me see. Let me take you back to module 2 real quick. So yes, it should be frequency.
Yes, however, I understand like what's on the X and Y axis. I feel just a little confused on that data because the frequency was 25, but there was not 25 men within that group. So the numbers didn't equal how many men there were versus the frequency number.
Oh, this is 28. So it goes up above 28. The frequency
Yes,
in
but
this group. Yeah, go ahead.
there's more men. There's 6,000 something.
Right here. So, see, there's another one here. So, let me show you this. So, first of
Yep.
all,
Total charges
oh,
are on the bottom.
so for 0 to what? For those who were charged, for males who were charged 0 to what? Under 5,000, there were 28 of them.
Oh.
For those who were
Right.
charged 5,000 to
Yeah.
under what, 10,000, there was another. I'm happy you asked. It's good.
Yeah, that's a dumb moment. Yeah,
No, you fine. Please ask. That's what you paid for. You are getting value
yeah,
for money. Ask.
I think I
Yeah.
forget that part of it.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
No, thank you. That I always tell my students, you paid for the class, get value for it.
Right.
Yeah. So you have 2 here, and then and so on. Yeah. So in this case.
I'll make that again and put it back in.
Oh, good. All good. We're all learning, and I'm enjoying. I appreciate your questions. All right. So in this case, so we have this piece, and then you put some words to it. Sounds good? All right. So that should get you through question 4 there. All right. What about question 5? Do patients who stayed longer in the hospital tend to pay higher total charges on average? In other words, is there a correlation, some kind of association between length of stay in the hospital and how much people pay? This again might take you back to what, module 2 and 3, where we talked about scatter plots. Do you recall? A numerical variable on the y-axis, a numerical variable on the x-axis. Are we good? So we want to see if this tick depends on the ground. Yeah? Are we good? So in this case, we want to see if total charges depends on length of stay. Let's go to StatCrunch. So an appropriate plot will be to see if what? Total charges, does it have any connection with how long you stayed? We need a scatter plot right here. Do you recall? So let's click on scatter plot. Remember, your y variable, excuse me. I've drank all my water. All right. My y variable would be the variable that depends on the other. In this case, what do you think should be the appropriate what variable? Let me move this to the side. Is it total charges that depends on length of stay, or is it length of stay that depends on total charges? Which one do you think makes sense?
The length of stay depends on the
length of stay.
Very true. So the one that depends is what? Total charges. Why? Like a pole stuck in the what? In the mud. Yes or no? So the pole, the y-axis, depends on the x-axis. Yes or no? Are we good? Good. So we want total charges. Does it depend on length of stay? Do you see the logic there? Okay. So let's what? If you like, you can click what? This. Did you notice that there is one that is purple here? You know why it is doing that? Because I highlighted this. Don't mind me. So if I don't want that to happen, let me close out of this. Let me not highlight this. Okay. And then let me go back. Let me open the last thing I plotted, scatter plot. You see that color is no longer there. Yes or no? StatCrunch is very powerful, very useful, very, very powerful. Are we good? All right. So you have this piece. Sometimes it might be difficult to follow the trend, but I can see a trend here. Does that make sense? I can see a positive slope trend. So what are other things? What are other customizations we can do? Let me go to edit. And what I would like you to do is to put a polynomial of order 1. That means a y equals mx plus b, a line. And once you put polynomial of order 1, don't change anything. Don't change this too. Just leave it as best fit. It will find it for you. Compute. Did you see what it did? It found the line of best fit. Are we good? And that line of best fit has an equation. If you move your cursor over it like I'm doing, this is your y equals, so Alicia, this goes back to your question. Where would I use this math? This is y equals mx plus b. Your m is 1353.8566. Then your x is there, and then your b. So this is the prediction line that can help us to what? Predict total charges based on length of stay. This is an application of algebra in statistics for modeling real-life data. Does that make sense here?
It does. And it helps it click because now I know these aren't just random numbers that we're just plugging in to plug in. It's a puzzle. It's a puzzle.
Yeah. All right. So you have this. So this tells us that you need to put this picture there and remember how to describe what? A scatter plot. Yes or no? You talk about what? The direction, the form, the strength, and what if you think there are any outliers or not. Very, very crucial. The last one says, are there any variables associated with how much in total charges a patient is obliged to pay? We already saw that length of stay is associated with what? Total charges. Yes or no? So it seems like our target variable here is total charges. We're trying to see how much. We're trying to see what correlates with it. We're trying to do some investigation. So in 6, at this level, I usually don't require too much. So I would recommend doing this. So let me do this. And you want to go to stats. Believe on the summary stats. Make sure you note this. Go to stats. Summary stats. And this time, we want to look at correlation. We want to see those numerical variables that are correlated with how much in total charges you pay. So click on correlation. Then click on what? Length of stay. I want to see if ICU days, total charges, drug charges, lab charges, imaging charges, respiratory charges. I want to see, so let's sort columns with correlation with, okay, yes, good. I want to see how they are mostly correlated with what? Total charges, yes or no? So going back, I want to sort rows by correlation with total charges. Are you with me? Because I want to see them, how they are correlated with total charges. And I would like to sort it based on which one has the highest correlation. So from highest to lowest, that will require descending. Are we good? And click on, remember, leave this up, parallelogram, and compute. So what do you notice? For total charges, this is the column we really want, right here. Right? I want to see how they are all correlated with what? Which one has the highest correlation with total charges? Respiratory charge, yes or no? So once a person, how can this be useful for a person who works at the hospital? A patient comes in and is sick, but is freaking out on how much. They don't have health insurance, or they don't, probably a health insurance that is not very strong. So even though they want the care, they're concerned about how much it is going to cost. You tell the person, well, based on the data we have, as long as you don't have a respiratory charge, are we on the same page? Of course, you might have lab charges, but if you have a respiratory charge, there might be a tendency that your total charges out the door might be high. Are we good? So, and also, yeah, if we have lab charges, that also shows what? A very high one, very close to 1. Are we good? So this is a ranking. And I can readily tell that most of these have what? The first, second, third, fourth have high correlation. This one moderately fair, and this one a very weak correlation. Yes or no? Yeah, 6% or the 7% as compared to what, 53%. Put this picture there and give me that word to explain what we're doing here. All right, 5:59, I think we caught it right there, right on the spot.
Can
How's
I
it?
ask a quick question? So I
Sure.
did do the correlation aspect. However, I didn't want all of those. I wanted only two correlations, but it kept on giving me the error that I needed more. So is there a way to just do 2?
I actually want this exactly.
Okay,
Because based
perfect.
on the question, it says what variable, are there any variables? Are you with me? Associated. So that would
Yeah,
be.
I was gonna use it for something else, like
Oh, okay.
another part of it, but that's okay. I'll just do it that way.
Sure. Okay. Sounds good. All right. And let me take the attendance. Oops, 6 o'clock. All right. Let me go quick. Christy.
Here.
Sherry.
Here.
David. David. Amy. Mike.
Here.
Julie.
Here.
Alicia.
Hi.
Jalen. Jalen. Brandon. Bridget.
Here.
Caitlin.
Here.
Sloan.
Here.
Thank you so much. I will see you on Thursday.
Thank you, Dr. Remy.
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Remy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. You have a good one.
Bye.